time. It's our time, my friends. Time for millions of maturepreneurs, 55 plus, who are hashtag not done by a long shot, to revolutionize how we lead, do business, and innovate our world. I'm your host, Jeanette Anderson, and welcome to my conversations with fascinating people who would rather inspire than retire. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of our podcast. I am here with the fabulous Craig Merriweather, and we're going to be all the way from Flagstaff, Arizona. We're going to be talking today about hypnosis businesses, hypnotherapy services, how powerful it can be, and how to build a business around that and use that in your life, both practically and also in terms of a business model. So, welcome. I'm glad you're here, Craig.
Oh, Jeanette, thank you so much. I appreciate you inviting me onto your show, and I've been looking forward to this conversation. I don't get to talk business side of things very often, so I've been looking forward to this.
Awesome. And so of course I'm going to tell you the official word, then we're going to find out the juicy tidbits behind the scene. So we'll find out what people don't know about Craig and some of his why he does the work he does. Then we're going to dive into how you can use this tool and these techniques to create more confidence, which at any age and stage we need that. So let me tell you about Craig. He is a clinical hypnotherapist and mindset coach. He helps people eliminate negative emotions and trauma so that they can heal and reach their full potential. Craig has created ACE Any Tests, the most comprehensive online training course for test anxiety relief, and so that people can end their fear and anxiety around exams, auditions, job interviews, and public speaking, as well as increase confidence and self-esteem. Love that. And such a needed thing because there's,
Yeah.
like, you were mentioning earlier when we were talking, whether it's a 65-year-old who wants to get their real estate license or a kid in school who's afraid of their math test or college entrance exams or plumbers who need to go and take some kind of certification, any levels and ages and stages, we may have stuff around this, especially if it didn't get dealt with as younger people. So we'll dive into that as well. But first, before that, you've been doing this for a long time, for over 12 years. You've been helping people heal from childhood trauma and cancer patients with pain control and veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder and students with anxiety and entrepreneurs with confidence and athletes with peak performance. Tons of ways this can be applied.
Yeah.
So fascinating. I can't wait to dive into both the methodology and why you do this work. So you've been doing it for 12 years. Tell us something about you that we would never guess from looking at your website or hearing your bio, or we would probably be very
Yeah.
surprised by.
Well, I think the biggest surprise is that the reason I got into therapeutic hypnosis was I used it myself. I was struggling with a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, started in my teenage years back in the 1980s. And, back in the 1980s, there's no internet. You even have the SSRI drugs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors like Prozac and things. Those didn't come out till the late 1990s. And so, back in the 80s, before that, it's just talk therapy maybe, or whatever book you could find in the bookstore, the library. And so I just kind of just sat with it. Teenagers not going to go out and probably do all those things because really, how do you know any different? How do you know better? You just
Yeah.
assume everybody feels like this. How do you describe color to a blind person? And so I just kind of wore it like an uncomfortable coat and just thought this is the way it's going to be. This is how I am or how everybody is, as far as I could tell. And it was really the birth of my son in the year 2000, well, 2001, that uh, my wife got pregnant in 2000, that I really decided, I need to get my life together. And so I started, and by then the internet's out there, and so there's a lot of research you could be done, and started looking into how to change mindset, how to change emotions. One thing that kept coming up over and over again, whether it was a book or a blog post or somebody doing a talk on a radio show or before podcasts, that hypnotherapy always kept getting mentioned amongst all the other kind of techniques and strategies you can use. And so while I was compiling my list of things to help manage it, things like just even more of these simpler things like just exercise and diet and watching what you're putting into your body. I was also starting to look into hypnotherapy and using it myself. And it was such an extraordinary release of just the hurt and the pain because it's not talk therapy.
Mm,
It's using the power of your own subconscious mind to heal. What Dr. Irving Kirsch calls hypnotherapy is non-deceptive placebo. And
mm,
of course, we know about the placebo. Every research study that gets published in a peer-reviewed medical or scientific journal has to have that control group. So let's say a pharmaceutical company doing medication, high blood pressure medication trials, they have to have the group that's getting the sugar pill. So they're
mhm,
tricking people into healing themselves. Why? Because they know that will happen. And
mhm,
so they have to account for it in their research. Because if 30% of the people getting the sugar pill are being tricked into healing their bodies, if 30% of those people are healing through mind alone, let's say 40% are getting better with the medication. Well, they have to actually subtract 30%
mm.
because maybe those people got better through mind as well.
Right.
So really only 10% got better, and that's good enough. But nobody looks at, yeah, but so many people healed themselves.
Mm,
And so Dr. Irving Kirsch calls hypnotherapy non-deceptive placebo. We're not tricking you into healing. You're going to do it because we're giving you back the control. We're not taking control from you. I know people see the Las Vegas shows and the comedy clubs and the people dancing like Michael Jackson and singing like Elvis Presley and barking like dogs and quacking like ducks. And really with this work, it's all about your intention.
mm,
I can't make anybody do anything they don't want to do. So if you want to quit smoking, which is, what hypnotherapy is really famous for, helping people to quit smoking, you'll quit smoking because that's what you want to do. I can't then hypnotize you as well to go rob a bank and
mhm,
we'll split the money later in the afternoon. That's against your morals. That's against your ethics. You're not going to do it. You may not want to quit smoking. Therefore, you will not. I can't make everybody quit smoking. That's why smoking cessation is not 100% guarantee. So maybe you don't want to. I can't just go into bars and Las Vegas casinos and just snappy, wavy, make everybody quit smoking so everybody's healthier. The secondhand smoke's not causing illness in other people. I can't go into prisons and hypnotize everybody to be upstanding, law-abiding citizens. I can't go to the leaders of the world and create world peace. I can't get Elon Musk to write me $1 billion check. Why? Because he doesn't want to.
Right.
And so you look at those shows and well, yeah, it's weird. They're doing all those strange things and it makes me laugh, but it's kind of odd and I don't want to do it. It's like, no, you don't want to do it, but they do.
Mm,
They volunteered to be up there. Why? Because they're extroverts, they're exhibitionists. They want to have a funny video to put on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram or something. They want to make their friends laugh. They want to have a fun time. Now,
right.
I don't want to do that. That's not how I, want to go and have a fun evening, but
Yeah.
they do, and they think it's hilarious and they think it's funny. Their intention is to have a really fun time and to entertain. And so when the hypnotist comes out, hey everybody, welcome to the show. Who wants to come up on stage and have a great time? They're only picking the volunteers,
Right.
you know. So they want to do that.
Right.
Again, that's a little head scratching because I don't want to do that, and probably you, Jeanette, don't want to do that, and maybe most of your listeners don't want to do that. But the reason those shows work is because everybody up there wants to do that. And
Mm,
so what if you want to heal? Not only just the emotional hurt and pain, maybe the mindset issues, the limiting beliefs, the lack of confidence. What about physical issues? Tons of research, and we could spend, next 3 hours, we'll do a Joe Rogan kind of experience and talk for 3 hours and we could just talk about the research. It's extraordinary what's out there. And if anybody ever wants to do a deep dive on the real research from Harvard, from Yale, from Stanford, from Cambridge, from Oxford, go to Google, and Google has a subsection that only researches uh, scientific and medical journals. And so all the research, so it's called Google Scholar. So if you go to regular Google and you type in Google Scholar, the first search result will be scholar.google.com. Just go there. type in hypnotherapy, type in hypnosis, type in hypnotherapy for pain control, or hypnosis for anxiety, or whatever you want to type in. And you'll get hundreds, if not thousands, of results
Hmm.
of just research that's happened. There's a extraordinary research study that was published in 2023 in Frontiers in Psychology. And they did a 20-year meta study. They didn't do their own research, they looked at other people's research. 20 years worth of hypnotherapy research, and found that hypnosis and hypnotherapy, therapeutic use of hypnosis, has a 99.2% efficacy rate, success rate. 99.2%. It's
Wow.
extraordinary. And that's not just making up numbers or just hoping that's what it is. That's 20 years worth of research proving that.
So
And so
hold
it's
on,
out there.
just have a sec. So when you say 99.2% efficacy rate, are you talking about people who want to resolve something using hypnotherapy?
Mm-hmm.
99% of them are successful?
No.
Wow, that's staggering. And I
Yeah.
would never have guessed that,
Yeah.
which brings me to a question that I wrote down, but finish your thought and then we'll go there.
I mean, that's kind of it. And it's not just again me hoping that or anecdotal evidence. My clients, have this kind of results. It's like that's what the research is showing.
Wow,
You know?
that's amazing. Okay, so two things. One, you mentioned non-deceptive placebo, but still, what that raises in my brain is if it's a placebo, that means it's not real. And yet, what you're saying is, of course, it's very real. So, when you say non-deceptive placebo, what do you mean by placebo in that context?
In that context, I mean, mind is going to heal the body. There was a research study done in Tech, I think the University of Houston Medical School. There was a knee surgeon, arthroscopic knee surgeon, and he wanted to test whether the scraping method or the flushing method was better, and he wanted his research published in a medical journal. You have to have a control group if you want to do that. So he literally did fake surgery on people. And he put people under, so they're unconscious with the propofol or the whatever anesthetic they're using, and he creates little incisions on the knee like he's actually doing it. Actually played somebody else's video because it's all, the cameras and everything going into the knee. Play somebody else's video in case a person woke up, they're making noises and scalpel and asking for tools and things. Pretended to do an operation for 40 minutes,
Yeah,
even while the person was supposedly unconscious, because sometimes you still hear that stuff.
yeah,
And so they pretended to do an operation. All they did was cut his skin, sewed up, two little stitches to sew it up, put him in the post-operational room where he wakes up. And what they found is that person, the group that got the fake surgery got as better, healed as quickly and as efficiently as the people who actually got real surgery. These are
hmm,
people who are using walkers and canes. They're now playing basketball with their grandchildren. You watch a video of it. There's a BBC documentary about it on YouTube. It's extraordinary. Mind will heal the body. So then you wonder, does the surgery even matter?
hmm.
Obviously, something like a broken bone or you have appendicitis or something like that. Yes, there's go to the doctor. But there's these other issues of like why aren't we using mind? The reason medication even works is because the brain creates the same element, the same chemistry. It's just you can't patent that. You can't copyright or trademark that. You can't make billions of dollars. So you mimic what the brain is already creating because it has to find the right receptor on the cell. And so the receptor's already there because the brain's already making opiate style chemicals to ease pain or to, whatever needs to be done to heal the body. So again, it's this non-deceptive placebo, meaning we're not tricking you into healing yourself. You're just going to heal yourself on purpose. It's already happening. We already know you can do it. So why not just do it on purpose?
So one of the things you mentioned, I think that's amazing, and I think that the statistics being that high, I've never heard that before, and so it's like makes your brain kind of go tilt, or at
Yeah.
least makes my brain go tilt. So a little bit, you mentioned that if you want to make the change, stop smoking or whatever the change is that you want to heal or whatever, but many of us think we want to, but we
Mm-hmm.
don't. We have the gas and the brake on. So
Yeah.
how do you tell whether or not someone truly wants to, or just thinks they want to, or that they should want to?
They want to because they made the appointment. Now, there may be some underlying blocks and some sabotage, certainly, and that's where the work comes in.
Mm.
But we're last on the list. We're not top of anybody's list in terms of healing modalities. We're the method of
Resort.
last hope. Yeah, last result, last hope. We get the cases where people have lost hope. They've been in talk therapy for 2, 3 years and they still hurt
Yeah.
and they don't know why. The people who have the chronic pain for 20 years and there's not one issue wrong with them, wrong with their back, wrong with their hip. They've done the MRIs, they've done the X-rays, they've done the physical therapy, they've seen every doctor, and there's
Mm.
no reason, quote unquote, reason for the pain. And so finally somebody says, "Hey, why don't you try hypnotherapy?" I helped my friend who was dealing with a lot of anxiety and anger issues. So maybe it'll help you. It's like, okay, I got nothing else to lose, you
Mm.
know. And so there, yeah, are definitely issues of secondary gain,
Mhm.
meaning that's a fancy term for saying, maybe there's a reason you're holding on to the hurt and pain, or maybe a reason you're holding on to the illness or the physical pain because maybe you are of a family of 5 children or 6 or 12 children, and the only way to get attention from mom was to be sick or to be hurt.
Mhm.
And so now you've linked being hurt and being sick or being in pain, emotional pain or physical pain
Mhm.
to being loved.
Right.
And who doesn't want love? And so now, and that's not something you did on purpose. It's not
Mhm.
something you certainly didn't do consciously as a child, but you've entered these instructions into your unconscious mind. And that's what we work with. We work with that unconscious part of mind. That's why you can find yourself spinning your wheels in talk therapy. Talk therapy is a great thing to do. And it's very healing and it's uh, very insightful. Discover a lot of stuff about yourself. Always have a coach on everything, whether it's business or, of course, athletics or music or whatever. But in terms of relationships or even just with your own mindset issues, yeah, always have a coach. But sometimes that stuff's kind of hidden within that unconscious mind, those files on how to keep you safe. And your subconscious mind is for you. It just may be using unresourceful instructions that were set up by a child in pain
Right.
on how to keep you safe. And now you're 50 years old, you're 60, you're 70 years old, and you're still hurting and you don't know why. You do know why,
Mhm.
but maybe you just can't identify it because it's hidden within the unconscious mind. So
Right.
sometimes it's just as easy to ask, why do you hurt?
Yeah.
What is happening that, feel it in your body? Where do you feel that hurt or that pain or that anxiety or that anger or whatever it is? The frustration, the tension, the pressure. Oh, it's in my chest, it's in my heart, it's in my gut, it's in the back of my neck, it's in my head. Okay, now we can identify as spatially where it is. What color is it? What does it look like? What is it big? Is it small? Is it heavy? Is it light? And now, as we're kind of disassociating from it and looking at it from maybe outside, now how do you do something about it?
Mhm.
Where does it come from? What is it linked to? What is it connecting to? And let's unplug it. And we use a lot of metaphor. We use a lot of symbolism and storytelling because that's how you communicate with the unconscious mind. And that's how healing happens. And that's how it happens very quickly. You will heal yourself. And because I don't fix anybody.
Yeah.
I'll make that pretty clear. I don't fix anybody. And, hypnotherapy in of itself doesn't fix anybody. It's not the techniques. It's a tool to help you fix yourself.
Mhm.
Just like if you call up your hardware store, you call up Home Depot, Lowe's or something, they say, hey, deliver a bunch of 2x4s and nails and hammers and saws and things, and I'm going to build a deck. Well, the hammers and saws aren't building a deck. You're building a deck.
Right.
And so, same with this. I'm not fixing you, and the tools aren't fixing you. You're fixing yourself because who better to know what the problem is than you?
Mm.
And what's fascinating about it is not to blame anybody who's struggling or suffering.
Yes.
And not to say it was your fault and not to say it was fair. It shouldn't have happened. Certainly not to blame the victim, but you're the one who put those instructions in there on how to keep you safe, to armor yourself with that anger, that anxiety, or even that physical pain.
Mhm.
Again, not to say it was your fault, because certainly, it happened unconsciously and through trauma and probably maybe even as a child.
Yeah.
But you're the one who did that. So that means you can undo it. It
Right.
becomes very empowering because if you're the one who set it up, why wouldn't you be the one to get rid of it? It becomes very powerful.
Exactly. Okay, well, there's a bunch of things that you said that I want to just touch back on briefly. One of the lines that I heard that's just lovely and brilliant, and I kind of went, oh, I like how you say that, is just that the subconscious mind is for you.
Yeah.
And and I'm a big believer that our limiting beliefs, our subconscious mind, our beliefs in general are trying to serve us,
Mm.
that they're helping us in some way. And people often find it very counterintuitive when you say, well, how does it serve you to do this sabotage? It's like, well, it doesn't. And it's like, no, no, it really does. There's a
Mm.
way you get to be or not be, and things you get to do or not do as a result of this. Like you said, the person who gets love from being sick all the time, etc., it serves us in some way, but it's very counterintuitive. But to frame it as the subconscious mind is for you is a wonderful, gentle way into that notion of it's just trying to get a need met, but probably in a way that's not helpful,
Yeah.
that there's better ways to get that need met. And I love that you touched on the whole we don't want to make this about blaming the victim, that if you can heal yourself, because there's a lot of stuff, especially in the woo world, about you caused it, you created your cancer, etc. Because conversely, if you can heal it, you created it, right? And so there can be what I consider to be quite a spiritual bypass, or blaming the victim, or and that may be true, but one of the things you said was, it may or may not, one of the things you said was, there was it was trying to serve us in some way. We were trying to get that need met in some way. We were trying to accomplish something through whatever stuff we create in our life, whether it's in our bodies, in relationship, in our business, whatever. We're trying to do the best we can and have something accomplished. But how do we, Craig, um, how do we not go to that blame space, or to that um, you know putting the gas and the brake on at the same time,
Yeah.
really understanding that this is just me trying to be met? How do we get into that compassionate space that allows us to go past the what's not working? What are some of the things that you've seen work with your clients?
Well, in terms of getting past it, generally by the time they're scheduling an appointment, they're ready. They may not understand why they're doing it. They may not even know what the problem is. I send people an intake form to fill out online. Most of my stuff's done over Zoom nowadays. And so I work with people around the country,
Mhm.
around the world, I guess, technically. And I send them an intake form. Some people write me 7 paragraphs on what the problem is because they're pretty well versed in what's wrong with them. Some people might just write the one word anxiety. All right,
Mhm.
then well, that's what we work on. We work on the anxiety because, again, you know what the problem is, and more importantly, you know what to do about it. And that's, what becomes very empowering because I'm guessing a lot of people have never heard that before.
Mhm.
And we're looking outside of ourselves constantly to have other people fix us. And that's great. If I'm in a car accident, take me to the hospital. If my appendix is about to burst, yeah, take me to the emergency room. I need surgery post haste.
Mhm.
But in terms of a lot of those mindset issues and these limiting beliefs we might have about ourselves that either we've heard growing up or from bullies at school, or maybe we just tell ourselves, we hearing those instructions over and over again, we can fix it ourselves.
Mhm.
And I think, again, sort of like, unfortunately, with a lot of the talk therapy things, I think people go to a talk therapist and look for them to fix them. You tell me what my problem is, and you tell me how to fix it. Well, the person does, that's why it takes so long just to get to know the person and talk about their families. And a lot of times what I find is people might come to me after 2, 3 years of being in talk therapy and they still don't know what the problem is. They still hurt. They're still in pain. And 1, 2 sessions, we're done.
Mm.
Because you know what the problem is. It's just hidden within the unconscious mind. So by just gently closing your eyes, relaxing, taking a couple of deep breaths, let's bypass that conscious level of mind, that analytical, logical part of mind. And let's just ask,
Mhm.
what's the problem? Why you feel this hurt and pain that maybe you're feeling in your heart or your gut, or maybe in the fists of your hands? What is it linked to? Let's go back to the first time you ever felt that anger or that anxiety or that tension or that pressure. or that red ball of rage that you sense in your head. So go back to the very first time you ever felt that. I worked with a 77-year-old woman, uh, you know, the other day, and she went all the way back to uh, standing up in the crib, and her
Mm,
father was screaming at her because she wouldn't stop crying. Who's going to remember that?
mhm,
In a talk therapy session. Again, talk therapy is very helpful, very useful, very insightful, very healing.
mhm,
But if the origin issue, if the root issue is that you were screamed at as a child, maybe before the age of 5, how would you ever remember that in your
mhm,
50s or 60s or 70s? You
mhm,
know? And so it's in there though, because it's trying to protect you. We mentioned that before a little bit ago. Your subconscious mind is for you. It's trying to protect you, keep you safe. It's for your survival. It wants you alive, which doesn't necessarily mean happy and successful.
mhm.
It wants you protected. And if something that even may benefit you and help you win in life, it may deem it, nope, that's dangerous.
Right.
Because the last time you got up in front of people to do a presentation, that was in the 6th grade, and you did your history report, and everybody laughed because your slides were upside down, and you stumbled over your words, and you mispronounced the name of the countries, and whatever. And all the children laughed because they're 10-year-olds and 11-year-olds, and that's what they do. And it was humiliating. And now you've linked standing up in front of people as being very, very dangerous. And
Mhm.
even though it's time to you know, talk in front of the investors about your new business idea or the board of directors or your employees or just, you're giving the keynote at the big conference or something. And it's like, no, 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 that's dangerous
Right.
because it's linking it back to 50 years ago when you were back in 6th grade.
Right.
So that's what can get healed. And you know what the problem is. And more importantly, you know what to do about it.
Mm,
And I was like, well, if I knew what to do, I'd do it. It's like, no, but that code is in there to keep you, preventing you. That armor is still on there. So let's remove the armor. Let's heal what needs to be healed. And then now that that weight is off you, what do you need to create the future that you want?
right.
Well, I need to start exercising. I need to, whatever the example is, and so you'll come up with it. You know what you need to do, but you're armoring yourself to protect you because you don't want to get hurt again. And that's understandable.
Right. So I hear you saying, a lot of people will say, I don't know what I don't know, but you're saying we often don't know what we do know.
Yeah, yeah. That's an extraordinary way of putting it, and it's absolutely true. And that's why I think it's frustrating for people when you're talking with your friends or your family. You're
Yeah.
just, like, why are you so anxious all the time? Why are you angry all the time? It's like, I don't know. It's like, yeah, you don't.
Right.
But the instructions on how to react automatically within seconds to literally change the chemistry within your brain, to literally start creating that adrenaline, that cortisol, flowing 300% more blood to the big muscles of your arms to fight because you're putting yourself in this fight or flight stress response. That's happening for a reason.
Right.
You know why it's doing it because it doesn't happen all the time. And while you may be in chronic pain, I bet there's parts of your day when you're not in pain. You don't even think about it.
Right.
Oh, but when you get up or when you sit down or when you have to turn over in bed, yeah, then you feel it. But I bet there's times when you don't even feel that physical pain. So it's not there all the time.
Right.
And so why is it being created? And yeah, there may be something seriously wrong. You twisted your back or you broke your leg or yeah, and that needs to be healed. You can even use hypnotherapy for that. Harvard showed that using hypnotherapy to heal broken bones, you heal 40% faster. You
So
know, it's
on that
extraordinary.
note, it's kind of what I'm hearing is it's not an either or, it's a both and. That
You know,
there are physical realities, and those physical realities can be influenced by our thoughts, our beliefs, our subconscious, etc., and our bodies in their ability to heal. But it doesn't mean that you don't take care of it in some way externally, because especially a lot of it, I think it really shows up a lot in cancer and cancer patients. There's this kind of either or mentality. Either I do all natural and I heal it with my mind and it's all on the woo-woo side of the spectrum, or it's I trust the medical system and I just go that way. But what I've seen in most of my friends is the combination of both is what's really been very effective for them. So so um so it can be a both and. How would you say people should make that assessment? Because
mm,
it can get really tricky
yeah.
when we get too far on one end of the spectrum, we may not go if we have an appendix issue, right? We may not go to the hospital. So how do people know where the line of accountability and
Yeah.
versus support is?
That's a tough one because yes, this is adjunct. This is as well as not instead of. And but there are those tough decisions to make. Are, in terms of we're just talking about cancer. Are you going to do radiation? Are you do chemotherapy? Or are there other things that you feel are right for you? And that's the thing that you have to uh, just sit and think and discuss with family and friends and a coach and a counselor. And it's like, I don't feel comfortable doing these processes. It doesn't feel right to me. And that's tough because maybe your family, they're worried. They're saying, no, 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 but the chemo is going to kill it all. And so you have to follow your intuition. You have to do what's right for you. And, certainly in terms of this kind of work, I think there's a lot of research out there. There's a lot of, it's not just guesswork anymore. You can look a lot of this stuff up. So you have to do your due diligence. You have to do your research. And I would just say, follow your heart and follow your gut. And that, I know those are trite little sayings, but University of Montreal medical school about 30 years ago discovered that there's 40,000 neurons in your heart.
Mm.
These are brain cells in your heart. So obviously we have something, I don't know, whatever it is, 100 billion neurons in the brain cells in your brain. We have a million in your gut. We have 40,000 in your heart. And these are three different systems that think, feel, learn, and remember independently of this. And that's why there's layers to this stuff. And so that follow your heart, or what is your gut telling you to do, is actually, you should listen to it. Those are brain cells working.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously not brain cells in your gut, but gut cells or heart cells, but they're neurons. And so in terms of, you have to do what you feel is right for you. You
Well,
know,
I think doesn't it comes back to what we started with is do you want to heal?
Mm.
And many people actually say, well, of course, but do you really want to be here, be on the planet or not? Because if ultimately, if we're talking at that level, right? Or do
Yeah.
you really want to be successful in your business? Or do you really want to stop smoking? Or because ultimately, it comes back to that's been serving us for so long in a way that we are comfortable and familiar with. Now, does it really serve us? No.
Yeah.
But it feels like it does. It feels like it gets those needs met. So, really, the question is do you want to make the shift? Because if you don't, it's not going to work no matter what you throw at it, right? Or very like the efficacy goes way down if we've got that gas and brake on. So let's shift gears just for a moment because it's fascinating. We could talk about how to do self hypnosis. Well, let's talk about that for just a moment before we go to the business side. So this is something that people can do with themselves as well, right? So talk.
Yeah, and technically, since I can't make anybody do anything anyway, you're doing it to yourself anyway. So you come to a hypnotherapy session with a hypnotherapist, you're doing self-hypnosis. Because I can say, close your eyes, take a deep breath and relax. No, I don't want to. So I I can instruct and I can facilitate, and but it's you that's allowing this to happen. And so, there's this gray line of between what's guided meditation, what's a guided visualization, what's daydreaming, what's just storytelling in your mind, what's hypnotherapy, what's neuro-linguistic programming. And it's all kind of one thing, just described maybe in a different way. But in terms of just self-hypnosis, it goes two ways. You can either go the positive route and, tell yourself, wake up in the morning, just sit on the edge of your bed with your eyes closed, like, today's going to be a great day. Today's going to be a great day because I choose to make it great.
Right.
That's self-hypnosis, even if it's just for 35, 45 seconds. But, you can also say, this day sucks. This is awful. This is horrible. Look at all these problems, and you can hypnotize yourself to have a horrible, horrible day. And so whether you're an athlete, putting yourself in state before the start of the race, you're at the starting line, or maybe you're doing gymnastics and you're walking to the edge of the mat, and you're putting yourself in a state of success and the mindset of a champion. That's self-hypnosis. you
So
know.
you mentioned state, and I think that's important because there's a difference between having a thought and putting ourselves in a state. And really, having a thought is not hypnotizing ourselves, it's getting ourselves into that state. Is that right? Or,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and we're all doing it. I mean, to a certain extent, we're all hypnotized all the time. We're always doing, it's that even that thing of getting the phone call and just reacting in anger, or you see who's calling. It's like, oh, this person again. It's like you've hypnotized yourself to react a certain way to a trigger in your environment. You have hypnotized yourself. And whether it's, or a good example is food poisoning. If anybody, has experienced food poisoning, it was probably one of your favorite foods. You're having shrimp cocktail and it turned on you, and you spent 2 days in the bathroom being sick. And now you never want to, even just the thought of shrimp, the smell of seafood, even seeing shrimp on another table, it makes you physically ill. You're not eating it, but it makes you physically ill. You've hypnotized yourself.
Mm,
You've probably ate shrimp for decades and never had a problem. And yet this one time you've now hypnotized yourself. You never want to eat shrimp again. Just even if you have the experience of driving home
yeah.
and you start thinking about either you're thinking about the future or you're thinking about something that happened in the past, think about, oh, I got that meeting coming up and I got to get the PowerPoint together, or I got people coming over this weekend, or oh, that thing that happened at the event last week. Boy, I really need to contact them. And all of a sudden you find yourself in your driveway or your parking spot or your garage, and you don't remember the last 5 or 6 blocks. You just put yourself in this kind of altered state of consciousness, not unlike hypnosis. And so it's what you're telling yourself, even with your eyes open during a busy meeting with lots of bells and whistles going off, and you're telling yourself, boy, my presentation is going to suck. I'm going to do terribly.
Mhm.
You're hypnotizing yourself. What are the chances then that it's going to go terribly and it's going to go wrong? While you're drifting off to sleep, if you're ruminating about, oh, I got to give that presentation at the big conference coming up, and oh, and I'm going to stumble over my words, and my PowerPoint is going to be upside down, and people are going to laugh, and it's going to be awful, and you're hypnotizing yourself. What are the chances that then it's going to go poorly?
Right.
Or, when your day goes from bad to worse, all
Yeah.
you're doing is focusing on all the problems. There's a lot of good in the world, a lot of
Yeah.
good in your life that's happening. You're just not looking at it because you've hypnotized yourself to focus only on the bad. So
Yeah.
we're hypnotize yourself all the time.
So I heard recently a person talking about productivity, and that productivity is not an issue of outputs. It's not an issue of we don't manage our time, we're not using our
Mm.
calendar right, et cetera. It's a matter of inputs. Are we sleeping? Are we resting? Are we hypnotizing ourselves positively or not, or negatively? And that inputs is monitoring and managing the inputs is what changes our productivity level,
Mm.
not trying to manage our to-do lists and figure out how to be more organized and so forth. So similarly, really monitoring and managing our inputs in terms of thoughts and what we're hypnotizing ourselves with, literally including TV, et cetera, changes what outputs we're going to get, changes what results we're
Yeah.
going to
That's
get.
an extraordinary way of putting it. I mean, but even like going to a doctor and let's say appendicitis, my appendix is about to burst and I need surgery. And the doctor's like, look, this is a very simple surgery. I've done this thousands of times. It's very safe, it's very gentle, and it's very easy to do. But in recovery, you're going to be in a lot of pain for the next 2 weeks. Even though our eyes are open, we're under fluorescent lights and we're in a busy environment of a doctor's office or a hospital or something. This person's hypnotizing me to be in a lot of pain for the next 2 weeks as I recover from surgery.
Yes.
And so it's all those little things. That's not, what you're saying. That's the input. And whether you're inputting it yourself, it's
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, this week's going to be awful.
Yeah.
Or a doctor, not to throw doctors under the bus, but or put them on blast, but a doctor saying, oh yeah, the recovery is really going to be painful.
Yeah.
Is an authority figure telling you how it's going to go, and what are the chances that you're going to be in a lot of pain. Now you can accept that or not accept it, but a lot of us see that doctor and they're the expert,
Yeah.
so
My friend Gwen used to call them MDities. They think
yeah,
that they're MDities. So let's shift really quickly before we wrap up to
yeah.
the business of hypnotherapy. Because you've been doing this a long time. Let me tell you, if coaches or doctors or pretty much any other profession had a
Yeah,
99.2%
yeah.
success rate, they would be marketing themselves much more differently and so forth. And yet, people in the healing arts, the helping arts, etc., tend to really struggle to market and promote themselves. What's been your biggest challenge for you as a business person or in a practitioner in getting your hypnotherapy business to be successful?
The biggest challenge probably was calling it hypnotherapy. Uh, it has so many misconceptions. There's so much baggage to the word hypnosis from what people have seen in films and TV. We could sit for days and days going through all the research, but well, I saw that movie a couple of years ago and they hypnotized them to be zombies or whatever. And it's like,
Yeah.
boy. So probably the biggest challenge was just first calling it hypnotherapy. Maybe if I called it transformational mindset coaching or life coaching or I don't know, something like that.
So why
Uh,
didn't you?
huh?
Why didn't you? Why do you call it hypnotherapy? Why did you go there?
I think just that's the way I was really excited about it. I went to extraordinary school, the Hypnotherapy Academy of America, and this is 500 hours. And I trained 500 hours in hypnotherapy, and I just, wanted to grab the world and tell everybody how amazing this work is. And now, because I was a hypnotherapist,
Mhm,
I forgot that really what I am is a marketer
mhm,
and or I didn't understand that at the point. I'm a business owner at the very beginning. Now I'm kind of co-working with my wife on this business, the wellness clinic. But I was a solopreneur, and like anything, this is 90% marketing
yeah,
and branding, and I didn't really get that. I was just like, oh, hypnotherapy, it's so amazing, it's so extraordinary. I love being a hypnotherapist. I love this work. I love the training. I'm and now looking back after so many years, it's like, okay, well, how do you all of a sudden just change, your branding?
mhm,
How does Coca-Cola all of a sudden start calling them awesome juice or
yeah,
something? It's like, how
yeah,
do you, it'd be better. We'd probably sell more. It's like, yeah, but how are you going to change that? How do you
yeah.
do that? And so in terms of that, and I'll probably start, we're talking about offering some, transformational coaching packages. And I think I'll slowly start the rebranding of it.
Mhm,
But if I tell anybody who is studying this kind of work and wants to be a hypnotherapist, I was like, well, think highly about maybe becoming niche marketing. Is like, what about becoming an addiction specialist
mhm,
or a transformational coach or whatever, a sports psychologist if you're very interested in doing athletics.
yeah,
So probably the hardest part is just getting over that hump of people's misperceptions, the misconceptions, the outright falsehoods of what hypnosis is. And it's just a lot of work. It's exhausting, the amount of
it is, yeah. And you mentioned, and I think that I hope people didn't skip over it when you said it, that one of the biggest parts of establishing any business is to actually get proficient at marketing, sales, the business side of the business. Because to be a practitioner, a hypnotherapist or a massage therapist or whatever, is not sufficient. You cannot just be the technician, you have to be the business person. And so, for you, what was your biggest resistance that you used hypnotherapy to overcome when it came to that side of the business?
yeah, and what's interesting about this work is it's relentless.
Mhm.
It's not that I just, wavy, wavy, snappy, snappy, and I have all the confidence to be the world's greatest marketer because I just noticed a couple of days ago that I got bumped from like second position on Google search for Flagstaff hypnotherapy because there's somebody who actually has the business name Flagstaff hypnotherapy, and I'm like now fourth. And
Right.
now there's Yelp and Psychology Today directory, even though there's no hypnotherapists in Flagstaff on the Psychological Today. So why are they there? And
Yeah.
why am I fourth? I was set. And so it's this, okay, well, now reboot again. And after the frustration and the disappointment and the throwing of things and the yelling, and we're like, okay, let's figure out what I need to do to start, re-ranking, even though I've been second for like 8 years. It's like, so why did I get bumped? Did Yelp hand Google a bunch of money? Why is Psychological Today on there? They don't even have Flagstaff hypnotherapist on their directory. So, and so it's not that all of a sudden I've, snapped myself into this, you know,
Perpetual.
extraordinary.
Yeah.
confidence of a Zig Ziglar or something that I know how to do marketing because it changes. It's going to change tomorrow,
Yes.
you know? And so now I got to start over again and figure out, okay, why does my blog post not reaching the people? And
Well, and it's a combination of the practical external and the continual work on the internal layers of belief. Like I just shared in a post not too long ago that I went through another layer of imposter syndrome. And you would think after 40 years of doing something and thousands of clients and lots of successes and great testimonials and yada yada yada, that wouldn't come up, but it does. Different levels, different layers, different triggers, different degrees of staying in it, but having done the work, some of which includes hypnosis and that programming and the work on the limiting beliefs or the subconscious mind, etc., helps to make it different. It feels in many ways the same, but it is different. There's different levels and different layers. And so it is, often an ongoing process. There are shifts that can happen. People can go from being a smoker to a non-smoker, but that doesn't mean that that's, like that light switch is flipped off forever and ever and ever, and it never comes up. The thought never
yeah.
happens, etc. So how can people find out more about you? And you've got a gift for them.
Yeah.
So tell us.
Well, there's two ways. We mentioned a little bit about the ACE test, so we'll start with that because you just mentioned the confidence boosting recordings. And so if you go to my website, acetest.com, you'll find these recordings you can download to help program you. They're self-hypnosis recordings you can listen to on your own time to program yourself for confidence. You can find it in the menu bar, or if you wait a handful of seconds, those annoying little windows pop up and you'll find it there. But in terms of more the straight ahead hypnotherapy, I live in Flagstaff, Arizona, so I named my business Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy before everything went to Zoom, and I know that's a mouthful, but if you just Google search Flagstaff hypnosis, you'll see Arizona Integrative Hypnotherapy. I'll show up, or ACE test is easy to remember, and just email me through there.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Yes, I just went and looked. I'm going to download these right now because it doesn't matter how successful we get or how old or
Yeah.
whatever, there's always greater levels of confidence and
Sure.
competence that we can
Yeah.
achieve. And true
It's
confidence.
relentless. It's relentless. The Dalai Lama still meditates every day.
Yes,
If
exactly.
anybody was to have it down by now, you think it'd be that guy. But 90 years old, he's still meditating. Yo-Yo Ma, considered the greatest cello player alive today, still practices every day. It's relentless. Just keep going.
Right. And get support because as you've mentioned a number of times, having someone to support us with implementing new behaviors, new thoughts, new ways of being, it really gets us out of ourselves. If we could have done it by ourselves by now, we would have.
Yeah.
So have someone support you, hire an expert who can help you with pulling the hand back from the end of your nose so that you can actually see what's on there and what's going on, including and especially in the area of what you don't know that you do know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So thank you so much, Craig, for
Oh,
being
you're
here.
welcome, Jeanette.
I love your passion for the topic. I love your passion for supporting people with this. And I love the really practical approach you take to there's tons of data, there's tons of information. This works, pitter patter, let's go.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. I really appreciate the commitment to supporting people in being the source of their own solution as well, which I think is great. Um, and so please go check them out at ACE, ACENEANY test, TEST.com and get your own recordings for confidence. Download them there. And by all means, don't forget about community and the role that that plays in helping you be successful. So please go to maturepreneur.world for the network, which is a great place for any of you who are 55 plus and hashtag not done by a long shot to find a community of support, collaboration, co-creation, and kicking ass. So thank you for being here, everybody. Have a great week and go monitor those inputs and get help with putting in better content. Bye for now. Thank you for listening. I'd love it if you left a comment and subscribed. And I encourage you to apply one aha from this interview right away so you can turn your wisdom into wealth and your contribution into positive change. Bye for now.